Oh, this is the original generator. Why they don't call it number one, I don't know, but I don't know why they do a lot of things. But anyway, this is the top of the engine. 22-inch piston, 34 and a 56-inch piston. And might as well go on down here. Let's see here. Yeah. Told you that this room was so filthy dirty. They took 6 tons of dirt, rust, and paint out of here before they could paint it and put the stairway in and cut the doors. The generator is not original. That was changed, and the boilers were changed, and depending on who you talk to, either 24 or 27. And the original coal, original fuel was coal, so those doors weren't there. That space was full of coal side to side up to the next level. Then at the other end, the boilers are back to back, so at the other end there's a coal. It's got a layer too. The change made to bunker oil was still fireboxes had doors on them, and it was never under pressure. That's one thing that I didn't understand, because most of those engines, you had to go through an airlock. But they never had any accidents that anybody ever heard of down here anyway. The shaft on it, I don't think any of this stuff is going to be on any test, but the shaft on that end is 143 feet long. The shaft on this end is 97. And the engine only turns about 6 RPMs now. Full speed was 125. The jacket gear is original, so it has a hydraulic motor. I can show you the jacket gear. When you get down here, it has a platform bolted on the condenser there where it was 4 bolts are. And this big vortex. It was seized up. So it took everybody that came down here to jump on that thing and go through. And that's the way it has it running now. Hydraulic on the motor and air on this system of direction. Now, that's okay, you can read. I'm ready for you to go to work if you want to.
Hey, I'm part of Medea's crew. I like this stuff.
The small rods are valve rods. There's 2 for each cylinder, and it's slow. A lot of you have already seen this. They come down here on Sundays, so I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it.
Years ago, too, all the time.
Yeah.
Like 35 years ago?
Oh, yeah?
There's always one.
Oh, yeah. Well, then they asked me to be down here. They had a guy on the payroll. And then it's cheaper having me here.
Sure.
And I've changed a lot of things down here from the way it was originally. Now, to go the other way, you had to bring it to a stop. And this lever moves the arms here, pushes the valve rods over, and the cam is bolted on down here. So you can see how it changes. pump that pumped the warm air up to the ladies' deck or the first class passengers is behind you there. And when they asked me to be down here, they wanted somebody here 4 hours a day every day, and I had a good crew down here. But when the pandemic hit, they all bailed on me, and only one of them came back after about 6 months, and now I have three new fellows down here. But to run that engine now, go fast. I don't run it anymore.
Okay.
You have to put a wrench on the crank. You give about a quarter of a turn the air on, and it runs. One day I came down here, and the damn fool had his hand in the cage there, turning it over with the fan. I said, you know, if that takes off, it's going to leave your hand in there. And he just said, oh, well, golly, I never thought of that. So I figured he wasn't the only one that they went around and had it so now, everything I heard up there, I didn't hear all of it, but everything that was run was on steam, and it was a split system. So 165 pounds went to the engine, and the rest of it went to all the pumps, and they were all 165 pounds. And a steam left the engine, it went into this big yellow box. That's the condenser.
Okay.
And the water, it was water for the boilers was just city water from either Oakland or San Francisco. And forward, after which any way you want to call it, on that end, there's a 6,000 gallon freshwater tank. It's still there. It's flat.
Oh.
And then they put these vertical fuel tanks in. So let's go over here, and they tell me you're supposed to watch your head, and I don't understand that. There's other parts that you bleed if you fall down, so be careful. Go ahead.
Okay.
You can split and come in both ends if you want to. Well, when the first people I had down here, two of them were women. Both did good jobs, but one was only here to make a statement that a woman could do it. As soon as she learned it, ran it one time, and I never saw her again. But this one, she came down here a lot. Steam left, when the engine's running, 3 pumps ran. This one, and that one. They always ran. Now, to, let me see here, where am I? They all run slower and quieter than they did in service. But it gives you an idea how bad it was over here. Steam left the engine, went into this yellow box, that's the condenser. The only thing seawater was used for was to condense the steam back to water. So this pump pumped cold seawater in this line and warm seawater on this line. Now I gotta get here, right here. I'm here where I hardly ever heard anybody.
There's several of those now.
Now the next one pumped the water out of the condenser into this tank, and there'd be 3 rows of sponges. Water would be dirty here, cleaner there. When it gets to the end, it's clean enough to use.
Are those loofah sponges?
Yeah. And you squeeze them out a couple
I
of
figured
times,
that's
but
what you
always
did.
clean on that end. I'm going to let it build a little air. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, there's about 12 people over here. I was going to demonstrate this pump behind me. And it blew this little hole in the pipe there, if you can see it. It was such a high whistle, I thought everybody was going to change their shorts because they all disappeared. I never saw them again, like a fire drill. Now, I'm going to get over here. This next one pumped the water out of the tank, back to the boiler, and started making steam again.
This is tough for you.
Can you get your shot? Here, hop in here.
Oh yeah, you see with those three running all the time, it must have been noisy as the devil over here. It was a little warmer over here. It ran about 120 degrees. The throttle side was only about 100 degrees. Don't run that anymore. Don't run this one anymore. But I'll do this one over here. This one worked a little different. Up on the upper deck, there's a water tank about twice the size of this. And if they flushed the toilet or had a drink of water, this automatically kicked in and pumped fresh water up to the upper deck. You guys can't see it, can you? Screw, 8-foot screw and a big rudder on both ends, and part of the steering was a steel rod the length of the boat, with power steering on each end. Behind the gift shop is a 2-cylinder steam engine with chains that go to these rods, and I used to run it all the time, but I ran it for a class one time about 3 or 4 years ago, and everything shook and rattled. The girls in the gift shop changed things, and there's cups and saucers and plates breaking and women screaming. And they all went to the man, and he told me I couldn't run it anymore. Then I pissed him off because I told him there was a bunch of tourist plates nobody buy anyway, but that didn't. Yeah, I have a kind of a problem that way. I talk to you people that are here. And I don't worry about too much what I say. If it's not politically correct, it's tough. But I'm more careful with the visitors that come in here. Unless they actually want to hear something that I can't explain any other way, well, then they're going to get it. Anyway, the bilge pump was on the manifold right behind you there. And it had a wheel on each valve, so we pump water out of the bottom of the boat. That's okay.
Apologies.
It always, somebody asked me why I need a bilge pump. It always had water where the shaft went through the hull. They couldn't keep that seals tight on that end. The only big change down here was when they went from the original boilers to the new ones. New ones have a superheater on there. So the original was saturated steam, so you didn't have to worry about oiling anything except the main rods on connecting rods. When it went to superheated steam, they had to have a pump, and that's the only thing they added, a pump that would give a shot of oil into all these pumps around here. Otherwise, it's basically the way it was built. And when they shut it down, they were gonna open it up, take everything out, make a bait barge out of it. And I guess they figured it's a hell of a lot more work than it's worth. There's a lot of lines down here. A lot of times people want to know if you get this thing running again. In the first place, it could take a small fortune to overhaul the engine and another fortune to redo the boilers, and then find somebody who knew what the hell they're doing. And there's not too many of them around anymore. But anyway, that's about the way this is. And we can walk through the boiler room, and the handrails in there are put in by the museum so the kids wouldn't get up on the catwalks. And it works part of the time, and sometimes it doesn't. Chasing kids quite a job here sometimes.
Yeah. As one of those kids can do.
Well, I noticed on the two boats, go ahead, they take people on rides, they quit having a quota on there of how many kids they could throw over the side out there and they start screaming. You've seen this before. What are you doing down here?
I want to see the star.
Now, the boilers, when they cut the doors in here, there's two of these tanks and that have water, so that if we get a list on here, we can shift water back and forth. Otherwise, the rest of them are dry. And we cut the doors through there in '85, I think it was. I wasn't a member even at that time. I don't think there's anybody around here anymore that was original outside of Jim Davis and John Merrill. Go on through. Yeah, we can get her.
No, I will.
I don't know if I trust you behind me or not.
I knew he was gonna, he gets a sparkle in his eyes when he's about to say something.
Well, this level in here ran about 130 degrees all the time. And they had 4 boilers, there's 2 back to back. And 4 men shoveling coal 12 hours a day. I don't know what the wages were. And they'd hire 11 or 12-year-old boys to sit on the coal in the bunker and break the coal up with a hammer, and they're in here. Now, I really like 5th grade girls. They bring tours of kids through here. I better not say kids, because I got jumped on by a little boy one day and said he only had 2 legs, he didn't have 4, so he wasn't a kid. So you never know what the hell they're going to come up with. Anyway, these girls come through here, and you tell them it's 130 degrees in here, and they wonder why on the other side this is marked oil heater. And they'll ask me why the oil was heated. I've never had a boy ask me that. But this bunker oil they're using, thick, gummy, nasty smelling, and you have to heat it up to about 200 degrees before it's thin enough to use. And so Navy used it up until the 70s, I think. But then they went to better fuel, easier. But those guys that were shoveling coal must have felt really great when they went to from coal to oil, because all they had to do was open and close valves. Anyway, that's the way it was down here. Somebody wanted to see where the coal was dumped in. I'll show you up here. They put the compressors and everything in here, so you don't really see anything in there.
Coal hatch.
I'm not gonna, wait a,
I see it.
yeah. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but there's one of the fellas around here had a little bottle fever on Saturday mornings, and he had a chipping hammer, and he punched a hole through the bottom here. And they didn't have money to really fix it. So this is what this coating is, and I never remember what it is, but it's all the way through the bottom of this from the engine room this way. And that keeps the water out. The engine room is, if you pulled up the deck plates and dropped anything, it'd go right through the bottom.
I don't think so. I'm gonna get stuck if she had. I don't want it right there. Leaves enough stuff around here.
The boilers are all the same. I mean, it's still 4 men shoveling coal, 2 on each end. And in this space, they hired 11 or 12-year-old boys to break the coal up with a hammer and kick it down so the stoker could shovel it in. Now in here, and I'll get out of your way here, when you look up here, there's a hole up above that light, and there's one right up here, and that's where they dumped. That's the way they got in here, and that's the way they dumped the coal in.
Okay.
Well, where was this above us?
Well, I can go out and show you when I get
Now, it says fuel oil, is that when you converted from coal to oil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Originally, it was, depending on who you talk to, it was either 7 or 8 years, and then they went to
Did the conversion?
oil. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Coal here.
Oh, right there?
yeah.
That's it.
Well,
Oh, I see.
right over there is a coal hatch too, and right up here is another one. These holes were cut in just to let the kids in here.
This one right here?
Yeah.
And before child labor laws.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
or
yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Ever have a kid get like buried in the coal?
Well, I heard that they made 15 cents a day for 12 hours.
Oh,
Well, I think your
15.
second tour is about ready to come on down.
Okay.
If you guys go out through the gallery, it'll
Yeah.
make it easier, make it a one-way system.
Yeah.
sure.
Then I'll show you real fast.
Go ahead. Go. Thank you.
Well, I need somebody to take over because somewhere along the line, I'm going to kick off. And
Well, where's the sign-up sheet for that?
I'll bring them in. I'll see you come in on Saturdays or Sundays, don't you?
Yeah, Sundays.
Yeah, I'll see you then.
All right.
I got all the paperwork, and
I got the bike too.
I better get down there before they have a fit.
Right.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
They're waiting for you.
If you've done your tour with Bob,
Yes.
then let us start outside, okay?
Okay.
Let's go.
Follow you.
half hour goes way too fast,
Yeah.
especially when you talk
How are you today?
We're almost done.
This is where I give my elevator speech whenever there's a line out.
Good idea.
Yeah, I point at the map.
So, I usually start my tours right here where we have a site map and you can see the various vessels that we have. Another thing that I would suggest that everybody have is when guests come here for a tour, they get a site map. And, oh, sorry. They get a site map.
You want me to carry it?
Sorry.
That works.
So from our vantage point here, one thing that our guests can see is the smokestack on the Berkeley. And if they have really good eyes, they'll see it says Southern Pacific Railroad. And people are wondering why a ferry boat has a railroad tie. So this is a good time to tell people that this boat and several others were actually an extension of the railroad. It was built in 1898 when there were no bridges connecting the Bay Area from one side to the other. So you would, if you were arriving by train on Southern Pacific Railroad, you would just get off the train and you could get on the ferry and you could go across. You probably start at the Oakland side, you could get across to the San Francisco side. So in 1898 there were no bridges connecting the sides of the bay and nobody had a car. Hardly anybody had a car. So these ferries just served as an extension. When you get inside, you'll notice the floor in there, and it was built to look like an extension of the Southern Pacific Railroad with the same floor. So let's board. Let's go on board.
Go ahead.
One question you might get asked is, did this boat ever have a pilot in it? Because people think of ferry boats, especially the
Like some Mississippi River boat.
right.
Yeah.
And no, it didn't. Is the correct.
2 pilot houses.
And we have the pilot house up there on the top. There's one on the other end also. And because of the length of this boat, if you can imagine it coming into a dock and now it has to turn around to go back the other way, you would need a lot of dock space to be able to do that. So the boat is actually able to go in both directions by just pulling a lever. It's now going in the other way, and you can go back and forth easily that way. This boat actually was the second or third boat that we acquired. Once we got the Star of India and decided we needed to have a museum, we need museum offices and administrative space and eventually space for exhibits. So that is what this boat started off doing, and it continues to do. As I said, we also have events here. We have a wonderful 4th of July fireworks viewing dinner that we can all volunteer at. And after that, we, and nobody else, except museum volunteers, can go over on the Star of India and join all of our buddies and have fantastic viewing of the fireworks display. So little benefit from here. So this is our store, and we'll meet Jane on the way through, who will give us.
She knows, they all know me.
I know, but let's give the greeting. What do you?
Hello, love.
There you go. Hello, loves. And please me the cashier means please don't shoplift, right?
That's exactly what it means. Otherwise, I'll stab you with my knife. No, maybe not. Maybe scissors.
Okay. While we're bringing people through here, this is a good time to stop and look at the Sebastian Munster map. The map underneath in color is what we thought, not we, I wasn't there, but what was thought that the Americas might look like in 1540 or something. And on top of it, on the glass, you see the map of what it really looks like now.
Don't mind these guys.
So, you know,
Barge on through. There you go.
so this is an interesting visual to point out to people before they go down and see the San Salvador. It's also a good time to just explain to them that that Cabrillo's voyage was to maybe go up what is now the west coast of what is North America and map it, because nobody that had been there, to find out if there was any gold or silver or riches that they might appropriate, and to actually find that mythical passageway from the Pacific over to the Atlantic where they could get to the Spice Islands. But none of those things happened. The folks who lived here, I don't think were particularly happy to see Cabrillo, and they had nothing that he could pillage or plunder. There were no riches, there were no passage to the Atlantic, and he died. So all in all, this was not a successful voyage. But it's a good place to start where people can see, what we're going to be looking at. So one thing about the Berkeley now is we use this for many things. We use it for exhibit space. Some of our exhibits are transitory. We have them for maybe 3 months, 6 months, and then we put up a new exhibit. So the one right behind us here is paintings that we have. Some of the exhibits are permanent. So let's look at some of those. This is our ship modelers building. We have a ship modelers guild that meets here, and they make ship models. Yeah, and often there is somebody in here. It's a French door, so the top, it can open on the top, and people can hang out and talk to the model builder.
Model builder, the guild meets tonight, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah, the ship
it's the
modelers
first
guild.
Tuesday of the
Okay,
month.
they're meeting
They're also at the
tonight.
county fair in the fine woodworking area
Yeah.
every year.
They win a lot of prizes every year. They're really good.
Yeah, so it's people of all ages are in that guild. Okay, we can point out to them, they can get on the Dolphin and the Swiss boat here. But this is one of our exhibits that is a permanent exhibit, an homage to the fishing industry. And as you probably know, the original fishing groups here were the Portuguese, the Italians, and the Japanese. And the Japanese were extremely forward-thinking in developing a triple fishing pole that was very, very effective. Unfortunately, with World War II and people being incarcerated, basically, their fishing boats were confiscated, and when all of this was over, they never came back. The coolers and all of the things that were used for fishing apparently had been thrown overboard, and what was left was your boat, and nobody really wanted to come back here after that. So some of the pictures that we have up here have a great story. There was a woman named Erminia Toronto who started here 30 years ago when Dr. Ray Ashley started here. And she was his executive assistant. She was the membership director, and she was the office manager when I started here. So one day, a few years ago, Erminia was walking past here, and there was a guest here. And he said, "Excuse me," she had a badge on, "can I ask you some questions about this?" And she came from one of the fishing families. Oh, okay. So she said, "Oh, okay." So she came over here, and he started to ask a question, and her eye was caught on one of these photographs. And she said, "Oh my God, those people are my relatives. That's Aunt so-and-so and Uncle so-and-so, and that's Frederico," and the guest is going, "Nice," you know. So after 30 years, Erminia got reacquainted, you know, with her relatives here. Her husband was a fisherman as well for a while, and then it got to be a lot of work. But this is, we are a fishing village. In the future, we're the future of it. So this is a permanent exhibit here. When people come on here and they're going to take a tour, a 45-minute tour on the pilot boat, this is where we direct people. They're going to wait right over here, and Kiki or one of the, whoever the narrator is that day, will come out and meet with them and give them a little safety lecture, and then off they go. One thing we've been asked to do by some of our fellow docents who are in Navy veterans is to give a little time at the U.S. San Diego Navy exhibit over here. I should say that at this point, the Navy was not only instrumental in helping build San Diego into the naval base that it is today. Our town fathers back in the early 1900s realized, you know, we got a nice bay here. If we could get the Navy out here, it's really shallow, but if we could get the Navy out here, maybe we could nudge them into dredging it, which they did. That's dredge from the bottom was used to create Harbor Island and Shelter Island. And originally we were not a base, but we were a training station, a repair station. But over time, the Navy now is the largest employer in San Diego. So I can see why they want us to spend a little time over here. So let's just go over and take a look here, which I always walk right by.
The other part I always fascinating is I love studying World War II and aircraft carriers and that. And the Langley was actually built and brought here as the first U.S. carrier, and kind of spearheaded how we've become now a big carrier fleet.
Right.
In San Diego, I thought that was fascinating in the first.
You'll
carrier.
see, if you're Kiki, you'll know which carriers are here. If you're the rest of us, it's hard to keep up on it, but Kiki can tell you day by day what has come in and what has gone out.
So do these don't get changed up on this?
No, this is one of the permanent exhibits.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to point out is our Swift boat exhibit. When I came here in 2012, we did not have a Swift boat. And the Swift boat we have now was actually, it was never in service in Vietnam. It was a training vessel here when the boats would be in service in the bay, the Blue Water Navy, as it was called. At one point during the Vietnamese War, the boats moved into the rivers, which is called the Brown Water Navy. So if we don't have rivers here, then the boats were moved up in the Sacramento area in the rivers. And they were. But after the war was over, the two of our Swift boats, including the one we have here, were on loan to the newly formed Republic of Malta. And it was not just part of their security force, it was their security force. Tell you a great story that I forgot to tell the last group. Okay, one day Kiki, a few years ago, was walking down the Embarcadero here, and she saw a gentleman standing out there, and she immediately recognized it was a Malta Navy Navy officer. So she went up to him and asked him, "Excuse me, are you from Malta?" And he said, "Yes, and I'm looking at your swift boat. My father, when our swift boat was in the service of Malta, my father was captain for 10 years of one of these swift boats." So Kiki immediately had to she got his contact information, and in one of our docent training meetings, we did a Zoom call from this man and his wife's kitchen in Malta. And he shared all of his experiences on the boat.
Cool.
And it was just unbelievable.
Please tell me there's a recording of that somewhere.
I don't think we did. But we did have, when the Swift Boat Sailors Association were extremely active in helping us get the boat fixed up, repaired, painted, and ready to sail here. We had a big event somewhere around 2015 or 16, I don't remember, when we had a huge group of Swift Boat sailors here. And I had at that time long story, but I was hired to edit and proofread the book that we had in our store that was written by one of the Swift Boat captains, or officer in charge that they're called. And he was here, and I got to meet him in person after that. So these folks in the Swift Boat Sailors Association raised an enormous amount of money. I keep asking Bob Bolger how much. Between 35 and 50,000, he said. They did an enormous amount of work on our Swift boat, and some of them narrate and are captains on it at this. So we still have that very close tie with the Swift boats.
Wow.
As I say, ours was never in service. It was a training boat.
And then later with the Malta.
Right, it was the
Defense
Malta.
Force.
The Malta. Not only in the Malta Security Force. It was the Malta.
Was it a one of two? I guess they had two of them.
They had two.
Yeah.
Yeah, two of them. So, yeah. So
Interesting.
we're really lucky to have this, and
They call it their Armada.
they call it what? The Armada. The two boats. That's good.
Oh, okay. Definition of Armada.
It's like
is two
dream
boats.
big. One of these boats here, and I can't remember which it was, is the USS Bennington, which had the worst naval disaster in our bay ever.
Oh, yeah,
and one
that's
of our
right.
docents, it's down here. Let's go down here for a second.
It's not like they're risking it.
This is the Langley right here.
Okay.
It should be right. Is that the Langley? No. Yeah, that's
Yes,
the
it
Langley.
is.
Yeah, which came to San Diego as
Yeah.
the first aircraft carrier.
Oh, here's the
The
Bennington.
Bennington over there. Yeah,
It's-
there it
it's
is.
in this case.
That had a terrible engine explosion. It had a steam engine like our Berkeley has.
Yeah.
It had an explosion right out here in the bay. It was right down the way, just under what is now the Coronado Bridge. The boiler exploded. 45 or so servicemen were either injured or killed on it. So a terrible episode. This 1905, I guess, is when it happened. And so we generally point this out. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, we've got about 5 more minutes. So let me just.
So my dad served on this, except it was called the Hogan Bay. It was 75 instead of 84.
We have
And it got escorted by the pilot.
We have so many stories when we bring people through here.
Granduncle was captain.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Same deal.
Yes, and we have had
amazing for
we've had people come from Australia whose ancestors came over on the Star of India. Matter of fact, last year, the year before, when it was the Star's 160th anniversary, 16 people from our museum, at their own expense, went over to the Isle of Man. There was a group of people in our age group, happy to say, who were retired, and they were performing the Star of India, the musical. And they were just delightful. We invited them to come over here. So they came over the last time we sailed the Star. They went out on the Star, they performed the musical at our annual members meeting. And it was just really a nice exchange. I'm still in contact with one of those gentlemen. He wants to set up internship program here for probably his nephew, but that's okay.
They gave me this.
We would, yes,
Yeah, they gave me this
okay.
one, yeah.
Yeah, I have one on my hat, but I'm not wearing my hat today. So that was a lovely experience that we had. And if you ever wanted to meet a group of people that you would want to go pub crawling on a party bus with, these were the people. They
were really fun.
They were really fun.
And they loved being
The after party of Sailing Star was got a little wild with them.
Were they
right?
there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
They got Mr. Davis singing sea shanties, so you know.
See?
Oh my goodness.
They went out on a pilot run with us, and they were just singing along, and the rest of the people on the boat are going, what, who are these people? They were standing out the second day when we took off on the Star that they weren't on, and they
where I
were
met them.
performing along the dock.
That's so cool.
So yeah, we still have a good contact with them.
A couple of them sailed with us on Star on Saturday, and they upstaged the band a little bit.
Of course they did. So anyway, this is about as far as we can get today into. You will get a full hour tour, I think in a week or two on the Berkeley. But we can spend a lot of time talking about this boat because of its historic nature, because of we continue to use it although we don't sail it. I don't know that I mentioned to this group, the first time I ever came here, I was living in Los Angeles. My son had come to San Diego to go to college, and of course, smart kid, never came back to Los Angeles. Met a girl here, got married, called up Jim Davis, who was the event director at that time, and said, we want to have our, wedding party here after the wedding. And so Jim set up a fabulous party for them. Of course, I came down from LA, I met Jim, and I said, this place is fabulous. How do I get involved? This was over 20 years ago. He gave me his business card, and he said, call me when you get here. 20 years later, that card was rumpled. I called him, and that's how I came here. So, anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
And have a, hope you're all enjoying the training program.
Yeah.
If I could say, it is so wonderful having sail crew people in our training program, because I've been on some of the tours and they're so knowledgeable and they can add to what we know. So if they start talking, let them talk.
Yeah, unless it's me, then you can tell me to shut up.
No. So anyway, thanks guys, and I'll
Thanks
see you
again,
all
Nancy.
next week.
Yep.
Yeah.